Good afternoon, Don Maxwell here from Live IT Academy. And today's lesson will be on Excel, and we are focused on understanding and planning a chart. Now, before you plan a chart, you must understand some basic concept about charts. For example, you have to understand x-axis, y-axis, and some charts have the z-axis. Whether a chart is a pie chart or column chart or other types of chart. Now, Excel has a wide variety of charts, and so we're going to be looking today in planning and creating charts. And then it's important to understand the different parts of a chart and to identify the purpose of the data and choose an appropriate chart type, right? And then you have to design the worksheet that Excel creates and allow Excel to create the chart for you. All right, so we simply have a regional sales first quarter data, and we simply want to design a chart of the first quarter, right? So here we have the different regions, and first quarter, January, February, March. We don't want to include the totals. And trend, we can even use Sparkline for trends, but let's start out by selecting the data that we want to chart. All right, so currently we want to chart the data that has the quarter. So I would say it is from the A5 all the way through D9, right? And so we're going to just highlight that area. See my area highlighted? And see how quickly to invoke that chart from Excel. We're going to say insert, and notice there's some charts here, well, quite a bit of charts. Let's let Excel recommend a chart. So we're going to say recommend. Recommended chart. So Excel recommended a clustered column chart. Right, and you'll see that there are different varieties of them, charts that Excel had recommended, right? Of course, the cluster column chart is probably the most effective chart that will have all the elements that will show or represent our data. So this clustered column chart is used to compare values across a few categories. Use it when the order of category is not important. So far, we don't really care, east, west, north, south, but you're going to see later on that we can rearrange the chart as well. Okay. All right. So if you say okay, your chart is already built. We can arrange this chart on the same sheet or on different sheets, but I'm going to put it under the data for now, right? Because we can create several charts. So in order to understand further, we must identify the different areas of our chart, right? So starting with the title on the top, you see chart title, right? We're going to make that, we're going to put that in a color so that you can say notice that because I'm clicked on the chart, the contextual tab chart tools appear, and I have the design and I have the format. Right? Of course, we have the design already, the different designs up here that we can choose from, and Excel give a gallery of different designs, right? That you can look at and decide if you want those designs, or whether you determine that, okay, let's go ahead and identify the different areas of the chart ourselves, right? And so you can pick from a chart style and color arrangement, right? A variety of color arrangement you can make as well. Okay? All right. So let's go back to our chart design. Let's go to first, let's put a design on our chart title. Of course, our chart title is going to be what? Regional sales, right? So let's go and put regional sales in, because that's our chart title. And then we want to highlight it, bring it to life. So we're going to pick one of the theme styles, right? And notice that when I click on a chart, I also have some tools on the side, like filter tools and so on. Add. All right, so what do I want to add? I want to add my axis. So you have to understand the terminology. What is an axis? Now we have vertical axis and we have horizontal axis. The vertical axis, sometimes known as the value axis or the y-axis. The horizontal axis, notice their categories, and it's also known as the x-axis, right? And we can see that we have a legend down here. So let's go ahead and put some titles around our document. So what type of titles do we want? We want a horizontal axis and the primary vertical axis. So what is vertical? Vertical is up and horizontal is flat, right? So let's go with the horizontal title. And here, what did we have here? These are sales numbers. And remember, in the chart, these were sales number representing January, February, March. So let's go ahead and put sales, put this title as sales. And we can use amount, sales amount. Right? And again, we can be consistent and make that the same as we did here. So let's go back into format and let's make that highlighted. And then we have the horizontal axis, right? And that's represent our months, right? Or also represent, well, we're not showing months here, so we're actually representing regions here, right? So this could be our regions. Right? If we wanted a third dimension, we could have months, and we're going to do that in a little while as well. All right, so let's go here, be consistent around the chart, putting in titles, right? And if you look here, we have January, February, March, which is represented by our data, right? So again, if I click once, I have highlighted one data point, which is the January data point, right? If I click twice, you'll see that I have selected just one, which is in January, right? January, East region for January. And I could change the colors if I want, right? So notice here I have a template, primary axis, right? I have colors that I can change. I could fill the colors, different solid colors if I wanted to, or gradient colors if I want to, right? So I could pick different patterns and colors as well. All right, and remember, when I click once, I've selected one data point. There's it, series January, right? But again, if I were to select multiple, right? For example, that one I could, well, why don't we change the colors here, solid fill. You can make it green. Okay. All right, but you get the point. We can change our data points by simply clicking as double click, single click or double click, right, and pick that data point, right, and to be consistent. Now this is the legend, right? So I'm going to do the same for the legend, bring it out, different colors for the legend as well. And just to verify here that I have what I want, I can axes. That's X and Y. The title, axis titles, region, sales region, right? Data labels, we can put data labels if you want on the data points, right? On the series, right? It's okay if you want to put them there. Sometimes they're maybe a little bit annoying to some folks. So it's an option, right? You can put the data points there, or you can read it based on the grid line, the chart. Right? Or put in a data table, right? Represent the same data table up here, right? If we had error bars, all right? And again, notice that I have an arrow here, right? With the standard error, percentage deviation, and so on, right? Grid lines, right? Whether we want grid lines or not. See, I removed the grid lines, or I could put the grid lines in, right? And then my legend, which is down the bottom, I can take it off, put it on. And if I had trend lines, right? What trend lines I want to do, the trend lines up top, right? Right? And by the way, I can further determine the trend lines by doing this in my chart. So let's do we can we could probably do spark lines as well, right? Again, from my chart, I can then determine what I want to do there. Switching column, different types, select data. The data that I want, the region I want. Okay, all right. So we'll come back to that in a second. All right. So you get the idea where you want to put your legend or how you want to manage that as well, right? We can pick from the style, different style of the chart, right? So there are many different elements of the chart that we just looked at. We talked about these different elements. I don't know if, of course, if you had line charts or different bar charts, you'll see that as well, right? There are some quick layouts that you can pick from, right? Automatically. So we have chart elements, which is we're going to identify the different parts of the chart, right? So we can go ahead and, for example, where's the plot area or where is the chart area? Let's look at the plot area. Say this is the plot area. I'm going to color it so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to make it a solid light green, right? So that we would call the plot area, right? And what about the chart area? The chart area is the whole, everything, including all the elements inside. So let's look for that solid color for that chart area. I'm going to change it a little bit so you can see it. I don't know if that's a good color or a lighter color. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. So we've identified the axes and we've identified the vertical, horizontal. We identify the titles, right? And the chart titles. So these are different elements of the chart. We identify the chart area and the plot area, right? Now, of course, there are many different types of chart. Let's do another chart in, let's say, 3D. If you wanted to do another chart, and this time we're going to look at the same data. And we're going to invoke our chart, the same chart, but this time we're going to pick our own chart. We're going to instead of picking a recommended chart like this, I'm going to go to all charts and I'm going to go to a 3D let's see, a 3D column chart. How about that? 3D column chart. And I'm going to arrange my data. See, I have the option of arranging the data. See, I can have all the east, west, and then January, February, right? Or I can go to January, February first, and then have east, west, north, south. So I can arrange it either way. Well, note that this is a 3D chart, so it has a Z-axis, which is also known as the depth axis. Depth axis. That's DEPTH axis. Okay. Now, so here we have another chart. You can even compare it to the all chart here, right? And you can see this chart has, we can put similar elements on there. Again, this is a chart title. It's the same chart title. This is regional sales. Right, and of course we can change the format here. Notice I go to format, shape style, and I'm going to pick the style here. This is my legend, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Notice I don't have my axis labeled, right? So I may want to put title axis on there, right? And this is going to be my sales amount. All right, and I'm going to do the same here. And here, this is going to be east, west, north, south, which is really my Z axis, right? This is really my Z axis. So I just want to emphasize this is the Z axis, but I want to do it in terms of region, right? Because it's the Z axis, but it's the regions, right? I'm just gonna get rid of that small r here. All right. So I handle it the same way as I handle my editor, and I'm going to put it the same thing, right? But here, this is by horizontal axis, which is for the month. So again, this category axis here is the x-axis, right? So we have the y-axis vertical, x-axis horizontal. So I'm just going to put this is the months, right? Or we can say quarter one, right? And I'm going to do the same thing here, right? So you see I'm bringing out the different elements of my chart. And notice every time I click on a element, I have the template here that allows me to either fill based on color, to fix the borders, right? Transparent or not, change the type, whether I want the outside to be round or flat, right? Or how much points do I want for the border, right? So this covers all that here, right? See the border? If I do that, borders are not there. So this is all about the borders. These are different features concerning the border, whether I want round edges, right? See, I just made the edges round, right? Whether I want it to be flat or round or square, right? I could pick, right? So you can see the round now. You can see all the caps. The titles have round edges as well, right? Those are the cap types. Okay, so this is self-explanatory. As far as the fill is concerned, let's say I wanted to fill the background. You see the grid lines here, right? What if I wanted to fill, what part of the chart is the back? That's the back wall. What if I want to make the back wall very light green, all right, solid color? I want to make it very light green, right? Look at that, right? And of course, this is the back wall. So how do we know that's the vertical axis major grid lines on this side here, right? So you just simply point to the chart. Let's say the plot area. What if I want to change the plot area? Again, I could put the plot area in a solid color. I don't want the same color just to show you the difference. So I may use a blue, right? So you can still see I have the back wall here. All right. And again, just simply go into different areas and just clicking on them and they get highlighted, and the feature, right? Major grid line options, right? So there are many elements and properties, right, to the chart, right? Whether you build it by yourself if you have time, or you allow Excel to design it for you, quickly design it for you. Some people like to play around, build their own chart. All right, so this is the chart area. Chart area encompasses all the elements of the chart inside of it. So chart area is on the outside. You can even color that chart area. I don't know if we're doing too many colors here, but let's see. We'll pick a different color. I like to experiment with my colors. Well, that just blend in the other area with it, so I just want to not do that. Okay. All right, but you get the idea, right? Now, what if I want to affect my series, my data series, right? I can click on the data series, and I can choose what shape I want to be in. If I want it to be a cylinder, I can change it to cylinder, right? See that? Or I can do a cone or pyramid or so on, right? And I could click on the different data area and choose what I want to do with that area, right? Whether I have shadow or glow, right? What do I soft, 3D, right? How do I want to represent the series options? See? Now there is a lots of elements. As I said, you have the back wall, you have the chart area, chart title, depth, again for Z axis, depth. Whenever you see depth, we're talking about the Z axis. What about the floor of the chart? Right? Can we change the floor of the chart? Absolutely. What color do you want to make it? See? Right? So you can pick from different elements, horizontal axis. Again, we said horizontal axis or the category axis. You have the title and you have the axis. The legend, of course, at the bottom, right? The plot area, talk about the plot area being there. Side walls, right? If you wanted to affect the side walls, what color do we want to make the side walls? Well, let's make that a light green as well, right? So if you want to affect the side walls, vertical axis, again, the vertical axis. The major grid lines, the grid lines tells us the level, kind of give us a estimated measure of what the data is. Say 40,000, see this line is my 40,000 line. So everything is below that, right? All right, so I have value axis, I have wall, I have each of the series are the data, right? Whether it's East series, West series, North series, or South series, right at the back, right? So I could simply choose the series options, right? And by the way, these tools are really cool too, right? Because this gives me the same elements that I can pick from, right? This also gives me different styles and colors that I can pick from, and filters. If I want to filter data, remove or not show certain data, I can filter it, right? So those are some really cool tools that pop up right on your screen. Not to be afraid of them. They just give you additional ways of formatting your chart. So again, this would be the elements, that would be the style or color, and this would be the value or names, the filter, right? And then notice the filter tool. Okay, here we have at the bottom the name, which is regional sales. I'm going to just change that tab color here. Put a dot, notice black, green, and I can really name it, double click and name it. So notice I have two charts. Now, if I wanted to put the charts on different sheets, can I do that? Okay, here's my data, right? I know I've represented with two charts. So what if I wanted to put the chart on a different, or move the chart? I can go to the design, location, and I could move the chart, and I could say, choose where you want to put the chart. So if I put a chart on a new sheet, I won't have it as an object in my spreadsheet. It will be just on a sheet. So what I want to do is put it as an object on the spreadsheet so I can control it based on Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so regional sales, right now that's where it is. So where do I want to put it? I want to put it as an object, and let's see, let's make a sheet here, and let's put it as an object in that sheet 1, and we're going to call this two-dimensional chart. So let's just put that chart up here so you can see it. And this is going to be my two-dimensional chart, 2D. Sorry, 2D chart, 2D chart. All right. And let's go back and let's get the 3D chart. We can put the we can do the same thing. If we click and go to design, we can go to move chart. And again, if I have an extra sheet here. All right, so I'm going to go move this chart here, and I'm going to put it on sheet number 2, and I'm going to call it my 3D chart, right? So I'm going to rename this, rename. I can double click on it or just go here and say rename it, and I'm going to call this 3D chart. And I can have a lot of fun with charts. They're really fun to play with. The true saying is a picture's worth 1,000 words. That is absolutely true when it comes to building your chart. Why? Well, think about this. Look at this data here. Right? Represents a lot of different things. But if I look at the chart, I can have more fun with the chart, right? This is like a picture, and it tells me the same thing, gives me the same data, right? And of course, if you want the exact data up front, right? We said that you can actually put those put that information on the chart, right? So you can determine if you want to use a chart table, you want to use labels on the chart, right? So you can actually determine that as well, right? And then you have them here and you have them there. So if you want to put the labels, so if you want to be, oh, I really want to know what the true values are, for example, right? You can put the labels on there, right? Or you can put a table down at the bottom to know the actual values. Otherwise, the grid is just going to give you a nice guesstimate, right? And I mean, you can change the tick marks of the grid. You know, you can make them a little maximum, minimum grid lines if you want a truer estimate using grid lines. Okay, all right. So you've seen how we create 2D, 3D. It's very simple creating a chart. Once you have the data, you select. You have to be planning this. You have to know what data you're going to be using in a chart to do your comparison. Notice we have more than enough data here, but I simply wanted to plot the first quarter, which does not include the total, right? So that's, let's see if we didn't do the trend that we said. So let's go back to click here and go to trend. Right, so what is trend? It's really, the spark line shows me the ups and downs of the January, February, March. Where's my low point? Where's my high point? So for example, I could say I want a line, and I could say the range that I want to figure out is this range here. Right? Remember, it's only January, February, March. Do not include the total sales, right? All right, so I can go back and say okay, and notice my trend line. So I can mark my trend line. For example, I could mark it. I want to see the high points. Notice the high point or the low point. Let's look at the low point. Right? Are there any negative points on here? Right? Or I can always click on the first point, last point, on marker points that I want. Right? And again, this can be just filled. You use the fill handle. Copy the trend, put it down, and will correspond with each of the cells, right? So you can see the low point, high point trend as well. All right, so there, let's go back to chart a little bit. I want you to recognize the data marker is just any one of these, just any one of the data point is called a data marker, right? We talked about the grid line, so you got that, the plot area, vertical, horizontal, X and Y axis, and so on. And the Z axis, in this point, we have a Z axis, because if you look here, we don't have that extra dimension, right? So this is only X and Y. 3D is X horizontal, Y vertical, and then we have the Z in the 3 dimension. Okay, so key thing to understand the different parts of the chart. 2, to identify the purpose of the data and choose the appropriate chart, or you can allow Excel to recommend. Remember, it does recommend what chart based on the data that you pick. And then you can design a worksheet so that Excel creates the chart the way you want to, right? Whether you want the data to be in front, let's say if we want east, or January to February here, or east there, or, so you can play with changing around the data, right? And it's not such a big deal, guys. You go and you click on the chart, and what do you have? The chart tools with the design and format. So learn the design tools, element, quick layout, quickly pick a chart style, switch your columns and rows, as I said, select the data that you want, the chart type that you want, right? Whether you want to move the chart to a new sheet or not, right? And then in the format, current selection, right, of the chart area, which area of the chart, right? And remember, we dealt with that over here. It's the same chart, different areas of the chart that you can pick from, all right? Which shape you want to use, right? We talk about the different shapes, insert shapes, and shape style that you want to use. You're familiar with some of these tools already, right? Whether you want to, we can even use word art style for these guys. Look at this. I can just bring these out. Word art style, right? So it has a fancier look to it, right? And then I have arrangement. How can I arrange the chart and the sizing, right, of each? Okay, all right. So that's your 2D and your 3D chart. And notice these are column charts, right? We would not use a pie chart in this case, because pie chart is out of a whole, right? So for example, if you had a paycheck, a $10 paycheck, you want to know what parts of that paycheck you're splitting. So that would be a whole. That would be more of a pie chart. These are more column charts because they're representing different data values, like east, west, north, south. Each could be its own column based on the data. So it's all based on data, right? And again, Excel can recommend the chart for you. Okay, great job. We'll be talking more in depth about charts. So this is just your first understanding, and the key thing to get away from here is the terminology, the horizontal, the x-axis, vertical axis, data marker, legend, grid lines, plot lines, and so on. Okay, if you did that, great job. Let's move on to a more advanced chart topic. Okay, great.